Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Joint Security Area, also known as JSA, a Korean military drama from 2000 that was directed by Park Chan-wook. Now, gunfire breaks out in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, leaving 2 North Korean soldiers dead, while a wounded South Korean soldier flees to safety. With the tenuous peace between the 2 warring nations on a knife's edge, a neutral team of investigators, led by a Swiss Army major, are dispatched to question both sides to determine what really happened, under cover of darkness out in no man's land. The stories are contradictory, but it soon becomes clear that neither story is truly accurate. So in many ways, I think JSA could be considered to be Park Chan-wook's most melodramatic and pure-hearted movie. There were definitely some moments in Lady Vengeance that could be described as that, and the entirety of I'm a Cyborg, But That's Okay certainly has a strong sense of innocence and pure-heartedness to it, but I'm a Cyborg was more fantastical, right? JSA has more of a realism to it, and it taps a certain sense of hopefulness of the future of North and South Korean nations by contrasting that with the reality of the situation. So the main characters from both countries have such a well-natured interaction with each other that it creates a compelling friendship, that kind of hopeful outlook. And then there's even some humor added to add some multidimensionality. The only thing that really prevents them from being friends is the conflict between their respective countries. And it's a very kind of fateful and tragic situation between everyday people who would have been the best of friends under different circumstances. And that's kind of the whole heart of this film. And it hits pretty hard emotionally. The final picture frame shot of the film is very impactful. It's like one of the best, I would say, final shots of a Korean film that I've seen. Now, near the turn of the century, South Korea was really starting to explore its relationship with the North during in its cinema. Especially commercial popular cinema. Just 1 year before this film, we got the box office hit Shiri in 1999, and then we got plenty of similar themed films after JSA as well. Welcome to Dongmak-gol is one highlight, as well as The Front Line. Those are a few standouts. And they also did some television series as well. Iris and The King Two Hearts come to mind. So JSA was one of the the big-time commercial films during the Korean New Wave of cinema that created a compelling dramatic story using this theme. And it's also the movie that put Park Chan-wook on the map in his home country. Even more interesting, though, is the main cast in this. I mean, it consists of some of the biggest heavy hitters in modern Korean cinema. We got Lee Young-ae, Lee Byung-hun, Kang-ho and Shin Ha-kyun. And looking back on this movie and considering what these actors have accomplished during the last few decades, it's really neat to see them all in the same film together, interacting with each other. And they all look so young. This was, 22 years ago, so they were still quite youthful in their appearance. And like I always say, if you're a big fan of actors, it's always neat to go kind of way back and see some of their earlier roles. And the performances are really good, of course. Now, Lee Young-ae is given, I would say, the most difficult task with her performance because she's given a decent amount of English dialogue. And she has a pretty heavy English accent. But that kind of thing really does not bother me too much in movies if the character itself is not supposed to have English as their first language. And I don't think she was supposed to have English as her first language in this. But if you plan on watching JSA for the first time, it might be good to go in expecting some heavy accents in English. But again, the vast majority of the film, it's spoken in Korean. So it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. I have read and seen some reviews complaining about that. So I just wanted to address that. I would say pacing is kind of on the deliberate side. There's almost no action at all. With the exception of one fairly brief shootout. There is an underlying tension, however, because when these guys are interacting from the north and south, it's kind of secretly, during the middle section, you could tell crap's going to go down. You know what I mean? You could kind of tell. So there is that underlying tension beneath the surface. Also, if you've seen some of Park's other films that he directed, and if you're turned off by like the sensuality and sexuality of some of his other movies, you don't get any of that in this film at all. There's no romance or sexuality at all in this film. So it's just something to keep in mind. Even if you're not a fan of this director, you might actually like this film quite a bit. So Joint Security Area is a must-see for anyone who's interested in South Korean cinema. It is available streaming, and it's also on Blu-ray. And as always, we will see you next time.